I'd like to welcome Thomas Selleck on the stage. And he will be interviewing our very first presenter, Sankari Wegman. She's a PhD candidate at MUM. She got her MA in physiology at MUM with a concentration in Maharishi Ayurveda. She's a philosopher, a health consultant, a TM teacher, a design artist for tailored expressions. Please welcome Sankari Wegman.
Sankari, you've been here in Fairfield for how long?
I've been here since 1998.
1998, that's quite a while. So could you just describe your job at the Raj as an Ayurvedic health consultant? You're basically a wellness consultant in Ayurveda, is that right?
Yeah, I work with the people who come, the guests who come, in taking their pulse and in making individualized recommendations for panchakarma, which is the treatments that they go through at the Raj. And panchakarma is different kinds of massages and different kinds of modalities that people go through to help purify their physiologies. And you can do 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 21 days even. So we write out an individualized program, pick up the herbs, pick up the oils that they'll be using, and then take their pulse, see what the state of balance is in their physiology, and then make up recommendations for them when they go home. And then we connect with them, every few months to see how they're doing, and it's pretty amazing to be part of the process.
So now you started out, I think you told me earlier that when you went to school you started out as a pre-med student, and now you've ended up in Ayurveda, in wellness. Can you describe that path?
Sure.
How you got here?
I felt like I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was 8. That was something that I felt like I wanted to be. I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I wanted to help people. That was the main thing. I had a great pediatrician myself. I still see her. I'm the only adult in her practice, but when I go home, I still like to go see her. And there's all these kids and highlights magazines and me. But I loved her. She was a great pediatrician, and I loved being around her. So I wanted to become a doctor, and I went to school to do biology pre-med, and I wanted to do a biology chem major and go to medical school, become a doctor, do the whole, just do the whole thing. And for me, I think it was my junior year. I took a junior year abroad to Kenya for 6 months, and it was part of a biology program to travel to Kenya. So we did a lot of stuff with zoology, with marine biology on the coast of Kenya, Mombasa, Malindi. And it was amazing to me. That's really what changed everything, because we were a group of 20 biologists going there, and to me what was more interesting was just talking to the people, the people who took us around, the people who we stayed with. It changed everything, because I felt like you get so, you're so in the lab, you don't get to talk to people, and just, I'm like, I have this chance to be in this country. If you ever have a chance to travel, and you're part of a program, talk to people of the country, interact with them, find out about them, find out about, how they came to where they are, because it changes something in you, Otherwise, you're just part of a program like a tourist going around that country, but maybe never really, felt the heart of that country. So being there, it just changed something in me, and I wanted to read more, and so I changed from a chem major a biochem major into a bio major with a women's studies minor and a chem minor. And I did the women's studies because I felt like I wanted to read more and think more, and all of my peers were having these fantastic conversations. They had read all of these different philosophers and great thinkers, and I had my biology textbook, and I couldn't really, I want to know stuff, I want to be able to talk with these, these great minds. So I did a women's studies minor, and it was great, and that changed my prospect in some ways to get into medical school, because biochem, it's a nice
track. That's part of the path, and you veered off the path.
Yeah, and it was also an ethics class that I took my senior year, and for 4 years when you study biology, you take a half-an-hour ethics class. And when I took that half-an-hour ethics class my senior year, that also changed something, because it showed me just because you can do something in this field with technology doesn't mean that you should. Just because you can do all of these things in biotechnology, should we do it? So we had half an hour of an ethics class. That's what you graduate with, to think about what you're doing in your field. And I decided right there, it didn't feel healthy to me because all I did was stay in labs. I was in labs from 4 in the morning. And I ate out at vending machines for breakfast. I had vending machines for lunch. And I went back to my bio lab, and then I went to chem lab, and I had vending machines for dinner. And about 10 o'clock, I came back and, would have some kind of another dinner, go to the library, study till about 2 in the morning, wake up at 4. So I was on 2 hours of sleep. And at some point, it felt like, this is not for me. It's an amazing path, and I think it's an amazing field to go into medicine. But I felt like I never saw the sun, and I was eating vending machines.
So you were on the path to be a doctor to help people be healthy,
yeah.
And you were surviving on vending machine food and getting 2 hours of sleep a night.
And an immense amount of stress. It's so competitive, and it's a great field, but the competition and the stress, and not, like if we're in this class and you guys know each other, like in your senior class, you've been together for a while, you know each other, but then you start not seeing each other as your friends, but as competitors who's going to take that grant away from you. So then it starts, for me, it was like I don't, it cuts something off in me, and I just decided this is not very healthy. So I graduated, and I decided not to go to medical school, which was...
Was there a lot of pressure from family or from your mentors about that decision?
Yes, I got a lot of questions. Oh, so what medical school are you going to? Just like some of you are getting. Oh, what college are you going to? So where did you apply? What medical school? I'm like, I'm not going to medical school. And especially from my family, not my parents, but my extended family, they're like, what do you mean you're not going to medical school? What are you going to do? And in an Indian family, you don't do that. You go, on the track that you're on. You don't just take a year off to think or to find yourself. That's like it doesn't happen. So I had a lot of depression. After I graduated from college, I didn't have a job. I was back at home at my parents' house. All my friends were in some track going somewhere, and I was back at home.
And what happened then?
And then I got the greatest piece of advice that my dad, he's given me a lot, but one of the greatest, and I still remember, because it's hard, when you're depressed, it's hard because you wake up and you have no direction. You don't know what you're doing with your life. I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone else seems to know, but I don't know. He told me, he's like, just go to school and take a class just for you, not for the credit, not for the grade. Take a class that you're afraid to take. Take a subject that you're afraid of. So right now, when you're sitting right here with me, what are you afraid of? What subject scares you? Like, what is your scariest subject? Everything. Did you say everything? Okay, so you have to take a subject in everything. But just think about it. Where is that fear of, what am I afraid of learning? And for me, I was afraid of philosophy. That really scared me. I loved biology, I loved chemistry, I loved mathematics because it felt like the answers made sense. Everything was classified and organized, like it all made sense, and you could put stuff, you could do diagrams and outlines, and things made sense. But philosophy kind of scared me because you have to think, and it could be this or it could be that. And like when my friends would talk, I'm like, yeah, I totally see your point of view. And, no, yeah, I totally see your point of view. And like, how do those point of views, work? So for me, I took a philosophy class. It totally scared me. I was doing a part-time job at Pretzel Time and another part-time job at the Nature Conservancy place. So and I was putting myself through college, and I was taking my philosophy class. I would have my pretzel uniform, which was like drenched in butter, and it smelled like butter the whole time, and my little, dinky hat, and I would be reading philosophy books on my break, because that's the only way, I could do it. But I loved philosophy so much. I had an ethics class from a professor that it just blew my mind. So I decided to do another another degree in philosophy with a focus in bioethics. And so I did 6 philosophy classes per semester. Usually you do 4, and I got another degree. And
So you got really good at thinking.
I don't know about that, but I really enjoyed it. I loved reading. I loved what I was doing. And the only part that I didn't know, I loved reading, but then what do you do with it after you read and you get inspired? I felt like I put the books back on the shelf and I wasn't living it.
So knowledge in the book stays in the books, kind of.
Yeah. And I was accepted to a PhD program in Kansas to do my PhD in bioethics. And on the way there, we stopped here, and that's where I stayed. And
So at what point did you learn meditation? I mean, the kids here have all learned meditation from a very early age, but you didn't learn meditation until you were out of college, right?
Until after, I think I was 23 when I learned. And when I came here on a visitor's weekend, and it felt like this is what I was looking for, because it was really about the journey of yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. You can go to college and you'll be on a track, you have to finish certain credits, you have to get stuff done, and somewhere along the way, it's easy to lose track of yourself. It's easy to lose track of who are you? What do you want? Are you living, your dreams? Are you living with integrity? Are you healthy? Are you happy? You just kind of get suckered into this track, maybe. And so for me, when I came here, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I didn't know if I was going to go to school at MUM, but I decided, regardless, I'm going to learn to meditate. And that changed it all.
And so if you could do it over again, what would you do differently in your education path or your career path?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I've thought about that, especially when you go to reunions and you meet your friends and you're like, wow, look at all the different things people have done. I think I would have traveled more. If I could have traveled more, I wish I could have done that. And I totally encourage you, if you have an opportunity to travel, it is amazing. But when you're traveling, try to interact with the people of that land. Find mentors there, or somehow interact with the people, not just the sightseeing or the tourist route. Because and also read books. Read great thinkers, great minds. Because as you're traveling and you're reading these great thoughts, it stirs something in you. So that's the one thing I wish I could have done more of.
Done more. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you'd done a lot of different part-time jobs, and I think you told me that you actually found that really valuable later on in your career, having tried out those things. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of different part-time jobs. I think the lowest one was smelling like butter the whole time, just I could never wash that smell off. But everything taught me so much, especially working when I was making pretzels. Can I tell you the amount of respect I have for people who do that, people who work? That is not, because I would get these customers who would come to me with so much attitude about how they wanted their pretzel, and I was like, it is a pretzel, okay? Do not take your stress out on me, but I have so much respect, and so I learned humility, I learned respect. So anytime I interact with anyone, whether it's someone working in retail or at the store or any business, there is so much respect that I have, for them. It's not easy at all. And I think just from working with different people, different groups, just learning how to interact with people, and how to stand up for yourself. If you see something that is not right, you speak up. If you see someone treating other people with, in their speech, or especially if the boss is doing that, you still speak up, even if you lose your job, whatever. It's important to speak up. So that's some lessons that I've learned, and I think in Ayurveda, like dealing with guests or clients who come in. That's how I feel. Like I try to treat everyone with respect, with humility, and just to be grateful. Just to have this interaction, and yeah.
Now, what would you say is the best part of your job these days? What makes you happiest?
Well, let's see. In my job. So I love doing what I'm doing. I love being at the Raj. I love Ayurveda. You know, I love it. And when I'm working at the Raj, I forget I have children, which is to me like the sign that I love what I'm doing. Because usually I'm like, okay, did someone pick them up? Okay, are they here? Okay, are you doing? Okay, okay, and then okay, you know. And when I'm working at the Raj, I'm like, I hope someone picked them up. Like I don't know. Like I hope they're where they're supposed to be. I have no idea like how the time has just flown by, and I love what I'm doing. I'm immersed in it. So that's how I know I love it. And I think the best part for me is taking the pulse of someone when they first come in, and then taking their pulse again before they leave, and just seeing the difference. And hearing their difference, you know, how they feel different, and then taking it again, you know, in a couple of months or in a year, when you see these repeat people, you know, coming in, you remember how that initial pulse was and how far they've come, you know, and just to hear their journey, it's always inspiring to me. I always feel inspired in myself, like, okay, so let me also try to do what I'm saying, you know, which is my challenge and hurdle. So it's always, I feel always inspired when I leave.
When you're from the job.
Yeah.
My last question has to do with, you've described that there's been many twists and turns in your both education path as well as your career, getting finally into Ayurveda. And one of the things that you told me was that you kept paying attention to what you were feeling, whether this felt good, whether you were tired, and then there were various stages of realization of maybe it didn't feel so good. Could you just talk about that in summary?
Yeah. I think growing up and seeing so many of my uncles and aunties, you know, who are successful. I mean, and that's the thing again, how do you measure success? What is your definition of success? You know, some people measure success with how much money you're making, you know, what kind of car you're driving, what kind of house you're living in. And they had all of those, you know, levels of success, but I saw them not really happy. There are people who never saw their children. I grew up with those children that they never saw, you know, and I heard from the children who they never saw how it felt to be in that family. That to me was not a level of success. So for me, I think it was scary when I changed my major and decided not to go into medical school. It's scary, but I felt like I couldn't do it because it didn't feel healthy to me. I thought, you know, if I don't feel healthy right now and I'm under so much stress that I can't breathe sometimes or I'm having an anxiety attack, you know, and all I'm eating are processed foods from vending machines, you know, it can't get better in medical school. Like, this is just the beginning, you know. Is this something I want to do? Yes, I really want to do this. I want to be in the field of health. I love it. But I have to come and take care of myself, you know? So I think just, it was a scary thing to make that decision and have so much pressure from family. But I love where I am right now, you know? And even now, it's like, okay, am I still, even now, it's like, what am I doing? You know, is this what I want to do? Is this how I want to be for the rest of my life? Where am I? And so I think it's always just like listening to your gut, listening to your heart, you know, and even just doing that, just putting your hands here and just knowing, like, does this feel right for me, you know? And it sounds totally cheesy and, you know, totally like, okay, kind of new agey. But just take a minute, because what I find is when I was in school, I was so stressed, I had a knot here, you know? Like I just walked around like, oh God, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta fill this out, okay, and then this lab isn't working, and this isn't happening, you know, I'm sweating, you know? And when I learned to meditate, especially when I was doing pranayama, I realized how much I was holding. I held my breath, ready for the next thing. Like, you know, like I'm ready to run, you know, I held my breath. And so learning to do pranayama and meditate, it was like, okay, you know, and so take your pulse, you know, do those things that you know, because when you graduate and you get out there, you're almost, there isn't necessarily a compass. You are the compass, you know, you are your due north, you are it. So just find out, in yourself, if you're feeling like you're going away from you, if you feel like you wake up and you're not happy, you don't know where you're going, there's so many ways that you already know of how to come back to yourself. And those are the things I wish I had when I was in college, and those are the things I'm trying to teach my children, which is not always easy, but just how are you feeling? Does this feel right? And listen to yourself, live with integrity, be humble, be honest, and enjoy.
Well, Shankari, we're really glad you did listen to yourself, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here, and we would not benefit from all of your wisdom and your vivacity. So thank you for coming.